Hey, Russell here again from Adelaide West Physio and Pilates and Adelaide West Headache Clinic. I want to introduce this idea of the sweet zone. This is a really useful concept to use for people that have ongoing pain. It's a really nice one to use with people with osteoarthritic joints, for example, but you can apply it in many situations, including starting a new activity, including returning to sport after a winter break. Yeah, there's lots of applications for it. The idea is that with exercise, with activity, and probably a bit broader than that too, not just physical things, but maybe mental things as well, social engagement too. There's a sweet zone. There's an amount of activity that is ideal. It's not too little, not too much. And if we're thinking about something, a tissue like bone, for example, if you do too little, and the aim is to help improve the bone density, the architecture of the bone, if you do too little, it's not enough of a stimulus to make a change. And so you don't get that positive response that you're looking for. On the other hand, if you do too much, if you push a little bit too hard, you do too much, either you make the increases in load too quickly, the weight that you're using, or the amount, the volume of walking, or the number of times a week, or whatever. There's something about the volume of that activity that's too much, then you're at risk of developing things like stress responses in the bone. And so the sweet zone is that area or that amount of an activity that is ideal, where it's enough to get a change, there's enough stimulus to bring on a change, but it's not too little, but it's not too much either. Sometimes known as the Goldilocks principle. I prefer the sweet zone personally. And the nice thing about this idea is once you've worked out what your baseline activity is. So maybe to start off with, if we take walking, for example, let's say we're talking about someone with an osteoarthritic knee. Your aim with walking is to find an amount of it that is ideal, that maybe brings about a little bit of pain, but not that lasts for too long. And so that's still within the sweet zone if you have some pain produced, but it settles down within a reasonable length of time. Once you find that point in the sweet zone, that baseline, then you can start playing a little bit, and you might be aiming to get a little bit closer to the front edge of the sweet zone. So you're still in the sweet zone, but you're getting a little bit closer to the point where you could do too much. But this is obviously, when you're traveling here, this is when you're going to get the ideal amount of change. Still short of overload, but you're, I guess, an optimal amount of exercise. But in order to find that point, you really have to find that baseline first. And that's usually the biggest challenge with any of those things, whether it's walking, or whether it's social engagement, or whether it's the amount of reading on a topic you do, whatever that might be. You need to find a baseline that's okay first, and then you can start to test it and optimize, and yeah, you might overshoot sometimes. You might go into the too much zone, but you're not going to go too far into the too much zone. It's going to be maybe a little bit of a soreness that lasts for a little bit longer than you project or you want it to. And so it's helping to really refine how much is ideal for you. And the thing that will happen over time, this is the cool part about it, is as you do more work at that front edge of the sweet zone, the border with too much will actually start to change. So you'll be able to do more before you get to the too much point. And that is adaptation. That's bioplasticity. That's your body changing in response to a load. And that's really what we want to harness. And remember, bioplasticity is something that happens all through life, from the start to the finish, or even before we're born, right to the very end. We have this this ability to change, but it all comes down to the stimulus that things are given to them. So that's the concept of the sweet zone. That's the reason for working in the sweet zone, and ideally towards the front edge, so that we can gradually bring about a change and an adaptation. I think on that point, I don't know that this is going to rub off very well. No, it's not. Okay, let's use a different colour. On that point, people with persistent pain have a narrower sweet zone. So let's say it might be there. And this is often the challenge with a person with persistent pain, is finding that original baseline to start from. And it's harder. There's potentially a little bit more trial and error, and it's easier to flip into the too much zone. But very easy to go into the too little zone, because it's just easier to do that. But over time, the aim would be with repetition, with determination and bravery and persistence and regularity of working in that sweet zone, it starts to become wider, and the front edge starts to move this way, and the sweet zone gets bigger. That's really the aim. And you could compare this to the Twin Peaks metaphor that I've done a video on as well, which I'll put a link to at the bottom. It's the idea of working around that flare-up line, just beneath it, but working in that kind of range, so that gradually over time the flare-up line starts to move, the protect by pain line starts to move as well. So you could probably translate the sweet zone idea onto the Twin Peaks metaphor. Maybe I'll do that in a different video, and it might just kind of tie the two together. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. If not, always pop a comment below. If you think I'm talking complete bollocks, let me know. If there's anything that I could explain better, just let me know. Or if there's a topic that you would like me to cover, just put something in the comments. Till next time, cheers.